This is gonna be one of those ones where like I probably should have scripted it, but I didn't. So be prepared for a mess, but hopefully a thought-provoking mess. The other day, I think it was last week. Maybe it was last week. I don't know. My dad had Back to the Future on the TV, and it was the scene right where Mark. I almost called him Mark. This is why you should script. This is right. The scene where Marky McFly and the Flunky Bly. I don't know. What are we talking about here? It was right the scene where he has just gotten back in time. He goes to Lion Estates and it doesn't exist yet, and then he goes into the town of I can't remember the name of the town now. Shit, it's gonna hit me like in the middle of it's gonna hit me in the middle of the whatever this is. He goes down into the town of Greensboro. Oh, I'm gonna feel so stupid. How do you forget the name of the town? This is just like me and fucking Johnny Knoxville from Karate Kid. Oh, it's Johnny Lawrence. Oh, I remembered it. Holy shit. This is like a completely different vlog entirely now. I'm keeping this. But yeah, he goes fucking Mayberry. Oh my god. I need to look this up now. Back to the Future town. What is it called? Hill Valley. There you go. Hill Valley. Isn't that the same place? Wait, really? Isn't that where Karate Kid takes place? Do Back to the Future and Karate Kid take place in the same universe? Like, I promise I don't like Karate Kid this much that it keeps coming up in these damn things, but like... Anyways, now that I've wasted 2 minutes on this, he goes back to Hill Valley, and it's all different. It's all in the 50s, right? And he goes to the cafe, and the guy's like, here's some water, you asshole, in your stupid life jacket. And he meets his dad, and he meets Biff, and then he meets his mom, like, all within 2 hours of each other, which I find mildly implausible. We'll get to that. We'll get to you. We'll get to you guy. And, like... he's like freaking out about meeting his mom, and like the whole movie is about like him just going back in time and things being different and having to deal with all that. And like it made me think about that whole thing, and it's like, man, the entire like time travel subgenre has really gotten away from us in recent years. This is definitely like a byproduct of the internet age, I feel like, where people have now been able to talk about things so much that the idea of it becomes more annoying than interesting. But it's like, it's something I've noticed. Like, and I think, I don't know if I saw it later that day or whatever, but I watched, it was the clip from Avengers Endgame where Hulk is talking about, like, you can't go into the past and affect your own future because your future's already happened. And it's like, we have to talk about multiverse theory. We have to talk about, like, the intricacies of time travel. We have to talk about the butterfly effect. We literally always have to talk about the butterfly effect in that stupid exploding fucking mailbox. God, that was a whole other vlog I didn't film, but I should have. Look, the butterfly effect is actually a pretty neat movie. But it's still it's still like, it's right in the intermediary of that, like, of this thing that I'm talking about, where it's like time travel has become this really complex plot element that people need to write around instead of about. And it's like, man, all right, crux of the argument right here. Here's my thesis. I kind of miss that version of time travel that was just like, go back into the past, fuck around, meet your parents, see how weird shit was, and then like you go back and everything's fixed. Now look, Back to the Future did ask a couple of questions like, if you bang your mom, do you stop existing? Which is my favorite out of context question that I've asked in this video so far. Like it definitely had that subplot going for it to add tension, but it wasn't like, all right, now if you step on this twig, then little Timmy's gonna break his arm and he's not gonna be able to run for mayor or some shit. Like it's like all the intricate details. It's like, fuck that shit, you know? Fucking Ashton Kutcher doesn't make friends with the goth kid. Fucking fuck that shit. Who gives a fuck, right? Like, not like I do think that the butterfly effect is true, and that like all of your everything that you do in life. I think the point of the butterfly effect as a concept is more so like small things that you do may seem insignificant to you, but may actually be significant. Like the episode Turn Left in Doctor Who, right? Like the idea is that like she never meets up with the plot if she turns left instead of right, and then like the whole world slowly goes to shit. That episode is agonizing. Oh my god. It's a great episode about and it's a really introspective episode thinking about like, okay, well, here's what would have happened in this entire series about time travel and space adventures if the main character didn't like exist. Like it's a cool episode of television, but man, it's pretty rough. But like, yeah, I think the whole point of the butterfly effect isn't like, dude, if you don't go back in time and make sure that you punch your hand at 9:54 on September 10th, 2023, then like you're never gonna make it. Like that to me is not what it's about. It's like this suggestion. The butterfly effect is merely an Aesop about like, the small things that you do could be very important, and you have no idea until later, or as you might say, hindsight is 2020 maybe. So that's kind of what I feel like, but I feel like so many time travel plots are sort of bogged down in that nowadays, where it's like we have to be super careful about what we do in this time thing that we do, because if we affect the past, it might affect the future, or it might not at all, and we have to make sure that we address it in an aside to the audience so that they don't ask questions on the internet, because like the internet has really ruined this shit. So many videos about time travel in movies and games and all this shit. So many questions people ask. Like, the biggest one usually being like, if time travel's a part of this plot, why didn't you just time travel back further and stop the whole thing from happening? It's like, that's the most boring question you could ask. It's not really. But it is interesting, because time travel is an infinitely interesting concept. I am 31 years old. I have lived a supremely boring life, but like if you add time travel into that life and you can go back and you can change it and you can make it into something interesting, then it's inherently interesting. And the concept of time travel is inherently it inherently makes everything more interesting. Dude, I would love to, as this weird person, like just show up somewhere in my past and be like, just do this, because I wouldn't know what else to do. Let's face it. If I were in a time travel plot and I got the opportunity to go back in time, I would be all about it, but I would have no idea what to do, because I am still like mostly as socially inept as I was back then. That's not true. That's not true at all. But I also wouldn't know how to help myself, because I go back and I look at it and I'd be like, whatever I say to this dude in the past, like, he's not going to understand it, because I know 17-year-old me, and 17-year-old me would not understand what the fuck I'm trying to tell him. There's nothing. I mean, I guess I could here's the question of the day. If you could go back in time and meet yourself, first of all, where would you meet yourself, and what would you say to yourself? I would have a fun conversation with 17-year-old me. I would, I don't know. This is taking a turn, but like, no, but let me circle back. So this is why you need the script. But like, no, I think the concept of going back and having a conversation with yourself is inherently interesting. I think the idea of of going back in time and meeting people that you used to know, or maybe even like, not encountering yourself, but like, the people you like, is inherently interesting. And it's just, uh, I think it's fun to consider those things, but I think too much now we fall back on the cynical idea that time travel can't work like that. Like, you can't affect your own past. And it's like, it's all make believe. Well, it's all made the fuck up, in it. Like, it is. Like, we don't know what would happen if you went back in time. Like, um, for all you know, we would go there, like, you would go there and you wouldn't even exist, and like life would go on around you. Like, there's so many possibilities with time travel, and it just, I don't know, it feels like nowadays when we talk about time travel as a trope, it's just kind of like, all right, well, here's the rules. Let's establish the rules so nobody goes asking any questions. But we're also going to make the concept of time travel like not as fun as it could have been. Now, in some cases, I kind of understand it. Like, Doctor Who has a lot of time travel plots where it's like, okay, this plot is about time travel, and you have to, like, things have to end up a certain way. Um, it's often really nice, like in the oh man, what's the other, what is the, oh, Before the Flood and the Fisher King, that two-parter from series 9. No one knows what I'm talking about right now. Goaty, please watch this. Um, but like, that two-parter is really interesting because like things happen, and like the plot is not about like necessarily preventing those things from happening. It's about closing the loop, and like that can sometimes be really satisfying, but it's still like complex, and you still have to establish the rules, and you still have to work inside those rules, and it's like, I don't know. It just like it just feels like the whimsy has been taken out of time travel a bit. Um because like it's so fun. It's such a fun little concept. And then there's also like the historic take, right, too, where it's like, people would be like, "Oh, it'd be so fun to go back to this time." And then people are like, "No, it wouldn't. It would suck. Like, that would be the worst time to go back to." Oh, and it's like, it's like it is side. No, it's like the novelty of going back in time. That's what it is. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what do you find more interesting? Do you find it more interesting to go back to a time you were never a part of, or do you feel like it would be more interesting to go back on your own timeline? Because that's what I feel would be more interesting. Which, I hear a noise. I don't know where that was. I don't know what that was. Time travel. It was probably me time traveling and being like, I have to stop you from making this fucking vlog. Well, congrats, you didn't, until it crashes. Whatever this is crashes through my window, and then we have a time paradox. Except now I've lost where I was. No, this lets me circle back to, like, if you could go back on your own timeline, where would you go? What would you do? I think it would be interesting to maybe not even really go back on my timeline, but go back to like 2005 and just like see where my friends were. You know what I mean? Um, or see where like people who would later become important in my life, what they're doing, or whatever. I don't know. That sounds kind of weird actually now that I think about it, but like, and honestly, there's really not a whole lot of people in my life where it's like, I want to know what they're doing. I think a lot of my internet friends, that would be really interesting for, to go back in time and go to a certain place, and sort of know. The issue is I don't know like exact times and places, like where people would be and all that stuff. I mean, I guess you could try to look people up, but you wouldn't have the internet, so it would be harder unless you did go back to a time with the internet, which is like increasingly more plausible because like 20 years ago we did have the internet. So like soon enough we're going to have like you can go back in time 20, 25, 30 years and like still be able to use the internet, which is crazy for a time travel plot. And I don't think that anyone who writes sci-fi like saw that coming. Like, it was very, very strange when we hit 2015, which was the year Back to the Future 2 was set in. And like, we were like, oh, this is different. This is weird. The year 2015 and Back to the Future 2 still doesn't have smartphones, and that changes everything. Um, my God, I think smartphones and the internet ruined every sci-fi to ever exist, because it's like they don't have this one that, like, all sci-fi prior to smartphones is dated now because they don't have smartphones. And it's like this is the one thing that makes life almost infinitely easier and more different, because you can just look up any knowledge you need. Like, it's just, yeah, that's an interesting thing in sci-fi that I really haven't seen addressed all that much. But like, pretty soon we're going to be able to write time travel plots where you can go back 30 years, get on the old ancient iPhone internet, and still have that ability. And it's like, I almost feel like that's going to make time travel a lot less interesting in the future, because it's like, oh man, you don't have to go to a library, right? But I don't know. I mean, I think just like, honestly, plots where you can just go back in time and screw around and see how it was. Like, I mean, imagine just being someone and getting to go back to the 90s. Like, that would be so fun for me. There are some videos on YouTube. I don't know how they exist, or who did this and why, but there are some videos on YouTube. I forget what it's like, not Mr. Robot, but Robot is in the username. But like, if you look for like video game shopping in Target in 2002, it's like there's a video of someone who's just kind of in the video game aisle, at a store, and it's like, I would love to just go there and walk around and just like see what's on store shelves, see how it was, really have context for things that have changed. It's like, I really do think that, like, as you get older, you start to forget the details, but they're still in your brain somewhere. So I feel like just to do something like that, just to go back in time and, get to go to, a Target or a Walmart or Ames or somewhere that you used to, go to, even some places simple, like, that you just have good memories at. Fucking McDonald's, right? Like, when they had a play place. You know, it's like, imagine how that would feel to have all that coming back. Like, you don't even really need to see yourself there or whatever. It'll be cool, but like, you know, honestly, I mean, I don't know. I think it would be cool to be able to just go back in time and like sort of watch yourself have an important moment. You know what I mean? If you, there are lots of times that I'm sure people remember the exact, um, the exact moment of something, and they could go back and they could watch themselves, do whatever it was, and it's like, I don't know. I just like, I feel like I wish that time travel was a little bit more of a, like there was just some whimsy in it, right? It was just fun, and you didn't have to worry about breaking the universe and or causing a paradox or causing a infinite multiverse or something like that. I don't know. It's just like, yeah, I would go back in time and have a conversation with myself. If I could talk to my 17-year-old self, I'd be like you don't know a great many things. I will say, it's like you have a lot of growing to do. There's a lot that's going to happen, sort of, kind of. Um, you know, but I will say one thing you were right about is that college didn't really matter. And you know, you were right about that, surprisingly. Um, you know, Stuff like that. And I don't know. I don't know why, because it's like at that point, then you do have to consider, well, what happens to that guy? What happens to that version of you that that now has that information from your older self, or for even for someone who's kind of validating. Like, I don't know. I think I would be. I think I'd be able to know. I think in some. I think you would have to have almost a sixth sense about, seeing your future self. You know what I mean? I don't know that he would necessarily like what he sees, but, you know, I don't know. I think there's just something inherent in time travel that's interesting, and something that's fun and something that's heartfelt, because it's like, I mean, think about what I just said, right? you know, I would go back in time. I would talk to my 17-year-old self and I would tell him, you know, to do something different with his life because you want something better, maybe, for yourself. I think there are people who would go back in time and say, don't change a thing. Everything's going to be great. You know, I don't know. I don't know what it says about me that I don't feel that way, I guess. But, you know. Anyway, how do you feel about time travel? Sound off in the comments below. Where would you go back in time to? What events in your life would you relive? Or what places would you relive? Or, you know, what would you do that you didn't before? Or who would you want to go meet? Or whatever. I don't know. Time travel. Just don't worry about the multiverse. Just don't worry about it. Like, you could literally go kiss yourself and stuff. You know? And that's a whole other thing. It's like, what if you decided to live in the past, right? Like, what if you ended up with what if you found somebody who was your age in the past, you know, and like, I don't know, you would just stay there and just live the rest of your life in the past, I guess. I don't fucking know. It's time travel. Nobody knows how it's gonna work. It's like we've logicked the magic out of it, you know, and it's kind of unfortunate. Yeah, time travel. Do it. It looks like my shirt said Doc Ow. What is this vlog?